Is Jess on? I gotta see.
Hi there.
Hey, Rick, Jess, looks like we've got a quorum.
Yep. Would you like me to go ahead and do the roll call and
yeah, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. And if you would please do a roll check, please.
Okay, so I'm just going to list off everybody that I see so far. If I've missed you, let me know at the end and I'll make sure to include you. All right, so going down my list, I see Scott, Tony, Karen, Joan, Ed, Reb, Ann Esch, Ann Nichols, Jim, Tom, other Jim, Jean, Rick Hoover, Larry, Richard, Rick Sonnenberg, Bev, and staff of member governments and citizens. Is there any CAC members that I missed? All right, with that, just remember to state your name when making a motion, mute yourself if you're not speaking, and then I give it back to you.
Thank you very much.
May I jump in, Jim? And so we don't have Carlos or David Chestnut. Do we have David Chestnut? And not Cindy. She let me know. Is Stephen Hart with us? No. Cheryl? Okay, so we so all alternates.
I believe Cheryl came off, didn't she?
I thought she was going to be at this meeting and it was probably going to be her last, but okay, I'll Jim, back to you. All alternates can vote.
Okay. Cheryl's not on. By any chance, do we happen to have her replacement, David?
Have not received any official notice on that yet.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's gone to the county commissioners for approval, but I have not seen it on the agenda as of yet.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, so again, welcome everyone. Thanks for your time and being here. Jessica, thank you very much for what you do in support of our committee. We couldn't do this without your tremendous help, so thank you. So do I hear a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved, Tom.
Second, Joan.
Second, Joan, okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Okay, the agenda is approved as presented. Anything on public comment for periods not on the agenda?
None were received by email.
Okay. I would just like to take an opportunity to follow up a little bit on my comment from last month about the federal stimulus funding distributed by CDOT. I've been enlightened a little bit in a little more detail than was provided in that article. And as you guys know, or at least I hope you know, we really don't get involved with CDOT funding. That's typically the purview of the PPRTA as the MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization for this region. The good news out of that funding was it's a little bit more than our normal allocation. But the good news is that funding is going to allow our region to get our #1 project done, which is the excuse me, intersection of Research and Powers, and to get a bridge across that intersection. The people that deal with CDOT funding and the long-range funding are ecstatic with what we've got and the fact that we're going to be able to get that #1 project done. So that's just some additional feedback to kind of round out my negativism from last month. So good news there for the region in that funding. So anyway, that was just thought I'd pass that along. Okay, item number 4, approval for the minutes.
Excuse me, Jim, that wasn't negative. That was Jimmy objective.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion for approval of the minutes of January 6th?
I'll move, Joan.
Second, Ed.
Any discussion? Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The minutes are approved. Financial reports, Ms. Bev. Hey, Bev, I know you're there.
No, can you can hear me, but okay, Jessica's bringing up the financial reports.
Okay.
So we'll wait till, here they are. Great, thanks, Jessica. Okay, as you can see in November, for November's receipts, we received $10,313,000, which was $1,865,000 over the monthly budget, or 22.1%. And on the next page, I don't think I can make this go down myself. Okay, thanks. On the next page, we were $1,054,000 ahead of last November, 11.4%. So we're doing really well. And it looks like we might have enough to have 120 million worth of sales and use tax for the year, which is really tremendous compared to 112 last year. So are there any questions?
All right. Hearing none, Bev, I would be remiss without thanking you for everything that you do as well. Great report, always good news. And thank you for the great job that you do in support.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, item number 6, capital maintenance and public capital maintenance and public transportation contracts, City of Colorado Springs. Who's going to do this one today?
Good morning, or afternoon. This is Mike Chavez, City Engineering.
Hey, Mike.
I'll be presenting. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a few contracts to go over. Let me get my screen situated here. So the first item we have is a construction contract with Kiewit Construction for the airport bridge over Sand Creek replacement. We did an RFP and got 4 RFP submitted, and it turns out that Kiewit had a good RFP and we're also the low bidder. So that was good, and we got a really good price on this project. The memo shows the bids that we received. And so we're asking for approval to authorize this contract for $3.2 million. They will actually start the bridge work in the fall after the rainy season, but there's some utility work going on there now anyway. So that works out well.
Mike?
Yes.
Is that the Sand Creek or Spring Creek?
Spring Creek. Did I say Sand Creek? Spring Creek.
I thought you did.
Mike, are they going to close the airport completely during a period of time when they insert that culvert?
Yes, they are looking at closing the road down for about 4 months, but they will keep an access lane open for emergency services at all times.
I was going to say, you got a fire station right there. So
yeah, so they'll have to keep a path open for the fire station and any emergency services.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item is we have a consultant contract to do intersection analysis of crash data and traffic volumes. And what this project will do is create a list of high priority intersection improvements that we'll use to address with the different available funding as it comes up.
Hey, Mike?
Yes?
Is there, hold on, I'm on the wrong place here. Is there a threshold that you're looking at? As I read through this, I was thinking, are they really going to look at every intersection, or is there a threshold, say intersections where there's only been one accident in the last 2 years or something, wouldn't even care about that, mainly looking at the frequency?
You know what, is Todd or Tim on?
Todd's available.
Mike, yeah, I'm available. Todd, I can answer that question. This is Todd Frisbee, City Traffic Engineering. The answer to your question is yes, they're going to look at all intersections across the board in the city of Colorado Springs, and the threshold, what they're looking for in the methodology we're using. We're looking for intersections that are experiencing a crash rate that is higher than expected. And then we'll focus on those intersections for mitigation measures to reduce the number of injury-related crashes.
This may sound like a beginner's question, and it probably is, but you mean we actually have intersections designed with a known crash potential?
Well, we don't design intersections so that they have a crash potential. We have intersections that are, from a crash perspective, are not performing what you would expect for whatever reason. And so the idea here is to identify, like I said, identify those intersections and address that with through various means that we have at our disposal to do.
Okay.
I would say there's plenty of disaster potential with the drivers that are out there.
So Todd, I've got a question. This is Tom. How do you handle intersections of city and county roads?
Well, our focus is city intersections. If it's joint jurisdiction, we'll take a look at that intersection because it is partly in the city. The county is well, I'll just say so anything that's sort of on the border, we're going to take a look at.
Okay.
Great. It sounds like the criteria for the intersections that you're looking at is soft as opposed to hard. Is that correct?
No. So without getting into the weeds here, or try not to get into the weeds. So what we're using are things, it's called a safety performance function. And so the state has developed a safety performance function for intersections. And that function is based off of the amount of volume at the intersection and the number of lanes. So with those two factors, volume and the number of lanes, they have gone through the entire state of all these intersections and have created this function, mathematical function, and it says for a road that has this many lanes and at this volume, you would expect a crash rate of this. This is what we're showing on average. We're going to look at our specific crash rates, and those crash rates that are over that average, we're going to identify as locations where we believe there's a high potential for us to reduce crashes, both injury crashes and all crashes. So no, it's a very mathematical, data-driven analysis at this.
And it only focuses on lanes and volume from the state study.
That's what defines the function, is the amount of volume and the amount of, and the number of lanes. And then obviously we'll be looking at the number of crashes at that intersection.
Is there a link that you could provide us to the state study so that if any of us wanted to peruse it, we could?
Yeah, I mean, I could. Let me think about that. I could pull some data on the methodology that we're using to do this analysis. It's the same methodology that the state of Colorado uses in their intersection crash analysis.
Well, that's what I was asking for. You said it was a state study that did this, and I was curious if there's a link to that study someplace so it's available for us to review if we so choose.
I'll see if there's some information on that. If there's a link.
Hey, Todd, I got a question. In looking at that data, is there a forward-looking feature or forward-looking forecast, given the number of lanes, crashes and whatnot? Is there a projection looking forward to growth in the area in a community that may be marginal now, that may double in the next 10 years? Is there a factor that looks into that?
Well, there's really not a method for predicting, because what we're looking at is, like I said, underperforming intersections from a safety perspective, and that's got to be based on data. It's really not a method out there for us to look 20 years from now and say this intersection is going to be a problem. We don't know that. So the way we deal with future forward-looking projections is we have design standards, we build intersections, build roadways according to our design standards. But always at the end of the day, when you come back to it, you got to look at, when you're looking at safety, you got to look at what's going on now so that we can properly use and allocate our funding to best reduce the number and most efficiently reduce the number of crashes on our road. That's our whole focus. And the prioritization of these projects will be based off of a benefit cost ratio. So if we invest this kind of money, we would expect, a return on investment of X, of above. We want those numbers to be obviously above 2 in most cases. So no, there's not a, like you said, it's not like traffic projections where you determine future traffic volumes and where you might have issues. It's all about looking at what's going on right now.
Okay, I'm just saying it wouldn't take much imagination to think of an intersection, Mark Shuffle and Woodman, for example, that there's going to be a tremendous increase in volume over the next 10 years, and that there was the high probability that the number of crashes at that intersection would increase relative to the volume increase. So I was just curious if that was part of it, but thanks for answering that.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Jim, this is Larry.
Go ahead,
I have
Larry.
a question for, I'm gonna kill a dog first. But on the contract, it shows that the award process was through the RFP process, but it shows only one contractor. Is this the only one that submitted a bid on this, Mike?
Todd, do you want?
Oh, this was the only contractor that submitted on that bid.
Okay.
But I'm 100% confident they can do the job that we've asked them to do.
Okay, thank you.
I did see a question in the chat from Scott Barnard. I think it was from Scott. And so yeah, his question was, is there a way to predict how many different fixes will reduce the number of crashes? Yes, so there is. So once we identify a problem, there are factors called crash modification factors that we can then apply to that existing pattern and make a prediction that if we institute this kind of change, we'll reduce crashes by X percent at that intersection. So yes, from a predictive point of view, we are looking at how changes could reduce that number of crashes.
Todd, this is Tom. My final question. when new developments are going in, there's always a traffic study done on those. Do you get all of those in your office? And for the city, probably, but how about those in the county that are right on the edge of the city?
Yeah, so it goes both ways. So anything that's on the edge where they receive a copy of our traffic study and can review it and provide comment. Vice versa, any traffic study done in the county that overlaps into city jurisdiction, we receive that traffic study and review it and provide comments.
Any other questions on the second contract? Okay, Mike.
Okay, the next item, we have 5 on-call concrete repair contracts that for the city to use. These will use RTA funding also. They do have the $200,000 task order limit and a $2 million aggregate maximum on them. And then the last item is a $75,000 contract with utility maintenance and inspection for pipe inspection, closed circuit TV pipe inspection. They inspect the pipes under the roads and use that data to determine if and what the fix should be.
When they can find the manhole covers on the storm drains that haven't been chip sealed over top of.
Any questions on any of these contracts?
Yeah, Mike, I've got one on the pipe inspection, your last one. It says the entire city's pipe system. Doesn't say storm pipe, doesn't say sewer lines or anything like that. So is it every line that's quote under the road? And if so, why are we paying for this when the city has to replace everything but the storm sewers? They have to replace the pipeline.
Cole, are you on?
This is Corey Farkas with Operations and Maintenance.
Go ahead, Corey.
Okay. Yeah, so this is simply for storm sewer that's underneath the roadways. So we actually send inspectors through pipes with GoPro cameras, anything that's 4 feet in diameter or larger. Anything smaller than that, we have to send closed circuit television through. And it's just for infrastructure underneath the roadway so that we can see what's under there. And if we have anything that will negatively impact what we're going to be fixing on top of the road, we can make a determination whether we can leave it, fix it, line it. So that's what this particular contract is for. We have several other contracts with it. But with all the other work going on in town and in the region, really, these companies are getting harder and harder to schedule to get in there and do this inspection prior to us doing the maintenance work. So this is an opportunity for us to get another resource on board so that we're not holding up any kind of maintenance work to do the closed circuit television inspection.
But they're not including pipelines that CSU takes care of.
No, this is simply for stormwater.
Okay.
This is stormwater only. Colorado Springs is on their own. They've got their own closed circuit television set crews to inspect their own pipes, and they also have contractors. This is the only part that the city of Colorado Springs is concerned with is the storm sewer.
Okay.
It might, along those lines, it might help then to clarify, because the project description in the contract says all reaches of the city of Colorado Springs pipes. So you might want to stick in that stormwater.
Yeah, we can clarify that.
Gene Bray with a question on the concrete. I believe I heard Mike say $2 million cap on the contracts. Is that right, or did I misunderstand?
200,000.
Well, each task order is 200,000 up to 2 million, and that's per the guidelines that we established several years ago on RTA contracts.
Well, the reason for my question is under the financial information on each one of the contracts, if I read this correctly, is you're saying funds available are 1 million and the budget amount is 1 million for 2021.
Well,
Sounds
these
like
are
that's a disconnect.
Well, these are kind of open-end contracts, but we can't spend more money than we have budgeted. But the $2 million was just a number. We didn't want to leave it totally open-ended, so we came up with a max. But we aren't going to spend that kind of money. We can only spend what's approved by the CAC and board every year.
Well, I understand that.
That's correct. This is,
you said 2 million and you have a budget amount of 1. That seems like a disconnect in the presentation.
so yeah, and this is Corey Farkas again. These on-call contracts, all of these contractors are the same contractors that we have doing pre-overlay concrete for 2C as well. The majority of the work these contractors do is in 2C. We do come across situations in the field that when 2C is doing concrete and paving on an identified roadway, that we have maybe a crossing roadway that's perpendicular to that has not been identified, that while we're out there does make sense to add pedestrian ramps or improve the infrastructure, whether it's concrete or paving or both on it. So, having these contractors with on-call contracts for PPRTA as well gives us the flexibility to utilize them in a capacity that, when they're out there doing the work for 2C, if we see something while they're out there, we can have them jump on that. Obviously 2C is very specific in what we can take care of with those funds with the identified roadways, and PPRTA really helps out giving us that flexibility to take care of additional roadways that might be adjacent to a 2C roadway. So having them on an on-call contract helps us out tremendously.
I understand that and have for years. My only point is that in the financial information on each one of those contracts, you say the funds available are 1 million. You say the budget amount is 1 million, and Mike said 2 million in his presentation. That is a disconnect. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
Yes, and we've discussed this before. Again, on this particular funding source, the street division has $1 million for this budget item, and these contracts will be used up to that amount that they have budgeted. And the fact that the terms and conditions of the contract can go up to 2 million doesn't mean it's not a guarantee, an automatic limit that we're going to go to. Just if there is funding, we could go up to that much, but we don't. We have $1 million to spend, and streets will determine, how they divvy that up among these different contracts.
I understand all of that, Mike. I'm just saying there's a disconnect between the presentation saying that it'll go up to 2 million when they're showing the board a budget amount of 1 million.
Okay,
that's
noted.
This is Mike Zeller, City Procurement. It's not just PPRTA funds. It also includes CIP and regular city funds. So that's why the 2 million is there. There's only $1 million in the PPRTA budget for maintenance.
And so maybe Mike should just say when he's presenting to the board, just use the $1 million figure if that's the only one, the only amount that's tagged to the RTA, and not get into the technicalities from a contracting perspective that includes other fund sources.
Okay, that's reasonable.
That may be less confusing.
Corey, this is a question from Tom. Percentage-wise, if you can, you've got a pot of money from PPRTA, you've got a pot of money from 2C, there's a pot of money over there from stormwater. How much, if you take the percentages, how much comes out of the actual Colorado Springs general budget for roads and transportation?
I'm sorry, Tom, you were breaking up in the middle of that. Could you please repeat that? I only caught the tail end of that question.
I'm looking for percentages because you've got a pot of money from PPRTA, a pot from 2C, a pot from stormwater, All of these seem to contribute to road maintenance at some form or fashion in either capital or maintenance. How much percentage-wise comes right out of the Colorado Springs general budget for transportation?
Well, I think for the maintenance, and I can't speak for engineering and traffic and transit, but for maintenance, we have a $2.69 million maintenance of effort that we have to maintain every year, and that maintenance of effort was for 2C. That was derived on a 3-year average from the city auditor's office, and so we have actually exceeded that maintenance of effort throughout the life of 2C thus far. So I don't have it on a percentage basis for you off the top of my head, but I can tell you that the just under 2.7 million is what our MOE is.
Okay.
Hey, Corey, this is Jim. Tom, I'm wondering if the chart that's included later on in the maintenance of effort, it's page 45 of the meeting materials, might answer some of your questions. While it doesn't give a percentage, it gives some numbers that may help with information.
It does, and it talks about moving sweeper personnel around and everything. There's a lot of moving parts to that, and that's why I was sort of looking for a single number.
Well, just to benefit Tom and myself, I will be asking questions about the updated maintenance of effort, about that movement. Basically on page 3 or page 46, it would be, there are several notes, and they talk about moving 13 sweepers and all the pit personnel and whatnot. There's a difference of about $205,000, and I'll get into it when we get to the item. I think it's 7B.
Okay, let's get back on track with the city contracts. Did we answer all questions relating to the contracts, the 8 contracts that were submitted by the city? Okay, not hearing any further comments or anyone disagreeing with that statement. Do I have a motion to approve the city's contracts as presented?
So moved, Jim Moore.
Second for Tom.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay.
No.
Okay, awesome. Contracts carry. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Item 6B, El Paso County.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, or good afternoon. Sorry, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County Engineer. We have 2 items for your consideration today. Both of them are for our 2021 maintenance program. The first one is a purchase order for our cover coat aggregate materials. These are materials that we use for our chip seal program in the county. We are purchasing $400,000 worth of chip seal materials that our crews will use to lay down and complete our program. This year, our program is looking at about 33 miles, centerline miles of chip seal, and that equates to about 67 lane miles of chip seal around the county. Those locations were approved by our Board of County Commissioners yesterday, and we'll be getting those up on our website. And this is to Schmidt Construction Company. They provide our aggregate materials for chip seal. The second item that we have on our agenda is purchase order for our aggregate maintenance materials. This is for graveling, our graveling program in 2021. And we award to several different vendors in the amount of $80,000 for a total amount of $80,000. So not $80,000 per vendor, but a total of $80,000. And we award to several vendors because we use those in different locations of the county. So we choose those based upon the material we need for each project, the best price for that material and the closest proximity for the hauling. So this is our first renewal of that contract. So $80,000, and we will use that with the various companies listed. If there's any questions on those, I'd be happy to answer that.
Any questions for Jennifer? Thank you, Jennifer. Appreciate your information.
This is Larry. I move for approval of these two contracts.
Jean Bray,
second.
Jean Bray, you second, right?
Correct.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the county's contracts as presented. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed say nay. Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay, item 7A, member governments transit. What we got on today?
Good afternoon. This is Brian Vituli, Transit Planning Supervisor with Mountain Metropolitan Transit. Good afternoon. Just wanted to report to you on our monthly transit activities. So for December of 2020, we provided a little over 119,000 trips on our fixed route system. That is a decrease of almost 50% from December of 2019. And this December, we were somewhat in the middle of an outbreak among our transit operators and staff over there. So we had a fair amount of service that was not operating during the month of December. Right now we're kind of getting back almost close to normal service levels. So we are in a better situation now. I'm scrolling down to the ADA paratransit service. We provided a little over 5,000 trips in December, and that was a decrease of about 56% from December of 2019. Our taxi choice option program is still not operating, so there's nothing to report there. For our van pool services, we operated 8 vans in December, 34 active riders, and about 490 one-way trips. And that is a decrease of just about 83% from December of 2019. Project update, this has been on the monthly transit report for the last couple of months, but we did just finish at the end of December our North Nevada Avenue connectivity study. The recommendations for a preferred roadway alignment will be carried forward into the city's Connect COS process. So that's the new city's intermodal transportation master plan that's currently underway. So the alignments of Weber Street and Nevada Avenue will be carried forward into Connect COS for further analysis and hopefully make a final recommendation on a preferred alignment. The only bit of information to add that's not on the memo, because this is really current information, is I just mentioned that we're nearly back to our normal service levels. We still have 2 routes that are operating at reduced frequency. And we also have 2 routes that are not operating at all. And that's Route 38 that goes to the Northern Hospitals and Route 40 that goes to PPCC's Rampart campus. We've been in conversations with both parties, all 3 parties, and we all agree, that these are partnership routes, or they're funded through partnerships and kind of pilot projects, if you will. And, right now is still not the most opportune time to test a service's success. So we've agreed to kind of continue to put those on hold. The hospitals agree with that. The Colorado Springs Health Foundation, who is our funding partner, has agreed with that. And PPCC still really doesn't have in-person classes operating. So we're hopefully going to reassess later this summer and hopefully restart both of those services this fall. The other part of the update I wanted to give is the CDC just last Friday issued a mask mandate. So this is carrying out President Biden's executive order from early last week. Public transportations, users are now required to wear masks. We've been doing this for some time now, but the age limit was 11 years old and older. This new mask mandate brings the age down to 2 years and older. So it's basically kind of what we're doing, but just expanding on that by including more people. And we are, continuing to follow there are a lot of webinars and a lot of information with all of the national transit agencies and the industry associations on, how to effectively enforce this. And, this is serious and we are taking it serious. And it sounds like, there will be, some better ways to enforce it. But, currently it is, the frontline people, which are our bus operators, they're the ones dealing with that directly. So that's the update for this month. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Jim, you're on
Hey,
mute.
Brian, I'm sorry, I was muted. Any update on the transit center? Like, are we going to know before next Christmas?
I'm pretty hopeful that we will know by next Christmas.
All right, awesome.
But no new update for now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Brian, this is Joan. Have the drivers had any issues with the mask wearing? And how are they able to handle that? Or, that's kind of putting a lot on that transit driver.
You're exactly right. And, I think they're doing a good job. And I think we've been in it long enough that passengers are starting to get it, that, they can't try to get on if they don't have a mask. So I think, early on, I think there were some confrontations and issues with that, but I think I haven't heard of any incidents lately. So I think it is kind of rolling forward pretty well now.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, we don't want to get those guys in the middle of something.
Right.
Any other comments or questions for Brian?
Yeah, one question. Does the Mountain Metro plan to reduce the age limit to 2, as quote the Biden administration has ordered or recommended, CDC?
Absolutely, yeah. We're required to. So yes, we are expanding that age limit down to 2 years and older. Yeah.
I see that being a problem for women with a child, or I guess guys too. Children have more problems accepting the mask than adults, most of the time.
All right. Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to item 7B, maintenance of effort reports. Rick, you going to lead this one?
Yes, please. I'll kick it off. As everybody knows, the establishing IGA contains the sentence about the maintenance of effort, and it's in your memo. It's the intent of the parties. So the 5 member governments have submitted their memoranda. They're in your packet. However, you should have received an email from me, which was forwarding an updated or revised maintenance of effort report from the city. With that updated report, feel free to conduct your review and discussion and develop a recommendation. And you can do that individually on the 5. Each of the 5 have 5 motions, or you can have a single motion depending on how the discussion goes. So with that, I'll turn it over. I hope we have representatives from each of the 5 in case there's questions. But with that, I'll conclude and open it up to questions.
Any comments? Let's just kind of go through here. Any comments or questions from anyone on the city's revised report?
I've got one of Gene Bray. All right.
Go ahead, Gene.
No, it's to ask Gene.
Oh,
Gene has referred to SIP, and when I say SIP, it's CIP, as I understand. I wondered if he has his question been answered, that it was not in the budget originally, or it was in the budget originally, but the city changed its accounting system, and quote, you couldn't follow where SIP was. I didn't understand where it was to begin with, or whatever. So, is it now answered?
My questions pertaining to that have been addressed, and if my recollection is correct, the board made a conscious decision not to include capital improvement projects or CIP money as part of the level of effort years ago. And once I learned that, it became water under the bridge. I think that was a faulty decision personally, professionally as well. But that's the decision that was made, and the ship has sailed. So there's a time where it pays to quit beating your head against the wall.
So I'm not supposed to talk about the bridge from nowhere.
Yes, thank you. Okay, any other comments on the cities? Let's move to the next one. I guess that would be El Paso County. Any question on El Paso County's report?
Jim, can we go back to the cities? I have a comment on that. There are notes referred to on page 240, the 46, or
yes.
Page 3. They've got notes. And if you look at that, what happens, or whatever, if you look at the total, it changed in their revised thing. They spent or distributed $205, and it's approximate $205,000 total difference. I'm assuming they refer to these notes, and they are on, I guess there's 2, 4, 6, 7 bullets. They refer to increases in transportation maintenance or attributable salary, etc. And some has to do with replacing vehicles and 13 sweeper operation positions. I assume that's labor. But the way it talks, I don't have a good feeling of, if you just talk about 13 people for the sweeper operation, I don't understand where that $205,000 went, but at the same time, I don't understand how these are incorporated. Like some of it had to do with stormwater money, and I don't see where stormwater is separated in their budget. And I don't know who that question goes to. I guess it'd be the city or Sheree.
Anybody want to try to address that, Mike or Corey or?
No, I don't know if anybody from the budget office is on, but we'll have them available for the board meeting.
Okay.
I can answer, I believe, probably some of that question. As far as the 13 sweeper operators go, those sweeper operators were a part of SWENT, the Stormwater Enterprise. We had a situation where we had people that were operators that were part of the Stormwater Enterprise and paid through the enterprise, but they were also part of our snow and ice removal team. So our stormwater folks would do snow and ice removal. And we came into a scenario where anytime those folks would do work for the general fund, so they would plow snow, the general fund would have to pay SWENT. And anytime we had general fund employees doing work under SWENT, they would, vice versa would have to happen. And it just from a budget and finance point of view, it was very difficult. So what we've done is we've pulled those, the accounting was difficult. So we've pulled those employees out of SWENT, put them back into the general fund, and SWENT actually has to pay the general fund through a service level agreement. And so our operators provide a level of service of maintenance to those projects, and SWENT pays for those. So, but those are now general fund employees. The 20 equipment operators that we have, we used general fund. We had general fund money that was set aside for projects annually. And rather than use PPRTA money for our supplementing our crews with equipment operators as we're out there doing our operations, we're now utilizing those funds, those general funds.
I lost you.
We lost you,
and have added those positions too. Yeah, I apologize. My computer keeps telling me that my internet connection is unstable. So, so yes, those 20 equipment operators were brought on full time with general fund money to take our teams and plus those teams up for the operations.
Okay, how do you address then the fact that the quote amount spent out of the general fund, I supposedly, has been reduced by 205,000, but you've added 13 plus 8 plus 20. You've added 40 people, rough numbers, to your payroll, and yet the budget went, or the amount spent from the general budget went down $200,000.
Yeah, so when we get into those type questions, apologize. We'll have to have Sheree.
You understand where my question
on some of those, and I have a suspicion that because a portion of those folks are being paid for through that service level agreement with SWENT, and I don't want to misspeak on that. So I would definitely want Sheree to speak to that. I just wanted to give you guys an idea of why we had to bring those operators over and how all that happened. When we get into the details, we'll have budget and finance discuss that with you guys. I just fix roads. Oh, Jim, you're muted.
Yeah, this is Mike. Like I said, we'll have somebody from budget available for the board meeting.
Thanks, guys, for that explanation. I was looking in this line for IT work. Maybe you should take a little money and put in there and stabilize your internet.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, I'm working from home today because I had to leave the office. IT was at the office fixing all of our internet, and it was even worse there. So,
got it. Okay, all right.
The internet or the operator, like me?
Yeah, there's not enough money in the budget, Reb. Okay, so any other questions for the city? Any questions for the county? All right, hearing none. Manitou Springs. Hearing none. Green Mountain Falls. Rama. Okay, do I have a recommendation to approve the maintenance of effort reports as presented?
This is Joan. I move to approve recommendation.
Second, Ed.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say nay.
Nay.
Nay, one nay, Reb, okay.
Nay.
Jim, if I could make a recommendation that the next year at this time that the city has whoever prepared the document available for the meeting.
Yes, that would be very helpful. We should have had a budget person here today.
Okay, noted. Good point. Okay, we'll move on to item 7C, monthly change order acquisition report. Information only. Any questions regarding the monthly change order and acquisition report? Okay, hearing none. El Paso County monthly change order and acquisition report. All right, good job. Hearing none, we'll move on. Item 8A, administrative action reports, report of recent board actions. That document was in your packet. Any questions regarding that report from anyone? Rick, you have anything you want to add?
No, thanks.
Okay. Item 8B, CAC public outreach. I'll take that one. So some of you may or may not know, we have we have had a subcommittee called the Public Outreach Subcommittee. The functions of that committee are outlined in your memo. Brian West had headed that thing up since its inception and been a key part of that. With Brian now gone, I asked Rick to include this. I thought it might be useful to, one, if you weren't aware that we had this committee and what their responsibilities were, that we inform you about that. And second of all, discuss moving forward. While the committee doesn't meet all that often, it does play an important role in reviewing documents and being there to provide input to the overall committee that kind of would take time for the whole committee to review some of the things that they do. I'll take some discussion if anybody wants to jump in there, but I think what I would like to see us do going forward is continue with this committee, and at the same time looking forward to as we begin to move down the road towards RTA 3, I would like to encourage the board, and I hope that whoever follows me would do the same thing, that the CAC is active in the messaging going forward to the public as we start working on RTA 3. That includes being active in the list of projects and communications outward to the public. And this committee could play a good role in that. Instead of having a committee of 20, we have a committee of 3 or 4 people that take an active role in this. So we don't need to make a decision today on that, but I wanted to put this out here so that you guys have got time to think about it. ask any questions, and then we'll put it on a future agenda. Reb, you got your hand up?
Yes. Jim, how about we mandatory for the chair? Okay, you write it's been the practice that the chair writes the annual report back to the board. And as such, you should be there. But anybody that's got PIO experience or expertise, I think they should be. But at the same time, I agree it should be a small three or 5 person group at the most, not 20. That's just my recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
This is Joan. Are there any, excuse me again, sorry, it's Joan. Is anybody interested in serving on this subcommittee? We know that.
I am.
Well, another question, this is Ed. Who else was on there with Tony? I'm guessing they're still on.
I was on it with Brian.
Yeah, Rick Hoover was on.
Yeah, and I wouldn't
Rick
mind,
and Brian.
I wouldn't mind sitting on it. I would prefer not to chair it.
Okay.
I honestly, even though I've been on the committee, we've never met since I was put on the committee, so I don't know much about what's going on with that.
Yeah, like I said, it really, unless it played a big role, a bigger role when we were redoing the website and in terms of the outward facing communications with the public. And right now that is primarily the annual report. But I personally see hopefully an increased role as we begin to put together messaging going forward. And I think that having some stability and some people on that committee would be beneficial. So,
well, I'm still all about wanting to serve on it. So let's get some people.
Okay, so we got Rick and Tony, and all right. So let's everybody think about this, kind of give it some thought, and we'll put it on a future agenda, and we'll discuss what's the right size. I think it should not be any more than 5. Probably 3 would be a good number, 3 or 4. So we'll put this on another agenda. Think about it. Any comments or questions, reach out to Rick or myself, and we'll bring it up and discuss it in a future meeting. All right. Rick, you want to add anything to that?
Only that the subcommittee might be called upon to look at the draft annual report. Let's see, let me look at the timetable for the March meeting. So we could, I guess we could have an ad hoc or temporary subcommittee of the two, of Rick Hoover and Tony, to look at an early draft of the annual report that hopefully will be ready for the March CAC agenda if all goes well. But as in years past, it might slip to April.
Is there anybody that would, hearing that, is there anybody that would like to be on it other than Tony and Rick?
Yes, but I got a question. Do you have a problem? We're called a non-voting thing, but we are public. Can they, because they're non-voting, can we have a public meeting or non-public meeting of 3?
No.
I know this. No. Okay.
So those meetings, the meeting of the 3 or the meeting of the subcommittee would have to be made public 72 hours prior to the meeting. So, okay. So, well, if in case, Rick, we do need to utilize the committee for the March meeting of the annual report. Does any other members have a problem with Reb, Tony, and Rick being our representatives on that committee? And we can formalize that at the next meeting if we want, But if we need to utilize those guys, does anybody have any problem with the three of them serving in that role temporarily?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Proceed, please, Ed.
Okay.
This is Gene Bray. I'm good with it.
Yes.
Rick, is procedurally, is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. I want to make sure we cover the bases. Thank you all for that. I appreciate your time. Okay. Agenda items for next meeting.
This is Ann. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I was going to ask Rick, do you think by the next meeting we would know what the legislature might be considering? They're going to start meeting, and if we have any business with them, we used to. I don't know what's pending right now.
Yes, the board's state legislative lobbyist is going to report to the board next Wednesday. So whatever he presents, I can add that to the March agenda.
Okay.
Jim, I would have a question and for consideration. The PPACG sets transportation priorities for our area, and sometimes those have funding implications for us. Sometimes they're pop-ups, sometimes they're long-term issues. There are certain ones where it's been fairly expensive and we didn't know a lot in advance. Would it be possible to have a PPACG transportation person come and talk about projects that they know that are coming in the area that may have an implication for PPRTA funding?
Funny you should mention that and bring it up. I had a meeting with John from upstairs, a transportation planner, a head transportation planner, and Andy Gunning yesterday actually, and about the CDOT and the overall long range planning. And so the short answer to that is yes, I think that's entirely possible. Personally, I think that as we go forward, and I'm not implying anything by saying this, because a lot of the same people are involved in the two planning processes, but I think there ought to be a correlation between the transportation improvement plan inputs that go up to the state for funding and the prioritization of those projects, and the PPRTA project list going forward for PPRTA 3. To address the very issues that you talked about, is that there's a cause and effect sometimes of building something here causes something over here. But we're also contemplating adding a pot of money or adding a category of projects that are joint or grant or state matching or whatever the category title turns out to be. And so, yes, I think that they're in having someone in transportation from upstairs come down and talk to us is entirely possible, and we should do that.
I agree with Tom on that. Thank you, Jim.
Good.
Good idea. This is Ann.
Okay. Any other comments or topics, suggestions for our next meeting?
Jim, for some time we've been talking about a joint meeting of the CAC and our governing board. And yet, to my knowledge, we've not had one. So is it all done, or are we going to do it? Or maybe Rick is the one to answer it. I don't know.
Rick?
Okay, I'll take the first step. A two-part answer. I think a joint meeting is anticipated later on in the PPRTA 3 planning process, probably May, June, July, somewhere in that time frame. And if there are any other topics to add to that agenda other than PPRTA 3, finalizing that 16-item matrix that the CAC had started on, and then the city staff, county staff offered to take that over and develop their recommendations, since city and the county are 99% of the money. So, and they are working on that. And so if we're going to have one in May, June, July, then on PPRTA 3, let's just add any other topics of interest at that time. I think I haven't heard that there's a need right now that there's any topics, but if there are, and if they're urgent, we can certainly set up a joint meeting for March or April. But if there are topics and they aren't urgent, let's just add them to the May, June, July timetable.
Okay with me.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Gene, for bringing that up. Any other comments or topics about meeting agendas or anything? What about any communications? Do any of the members of the committee have any communications that they would like to share with the rest? Any
this
members?
is Joan.
Go ahead, Joan.
El Paso County roads, and I was hoping Jennifer would speak more to that if she's still here, are doing a survey of unincorporated El Paso County and dangerous intersections and problems. And there's an interactive map where you can actually post to the roadway or concerns that you have. And this is just starting now. And I would suggest anybody that's interested in that to please check the county website on it.
That's good, Joan, Jean. This is Ann. I got that. Jessica sent me a link for all that. I guess everyone has it. And I'm going to have to contact CDOT because I tried to do it. It's rather complicated because I've got some ideas about US 24 West that are problems. So, but I'm glad you brought that up. We can all chime in just as people.
Jennifer, do you want to address your traffic safety survey?
Yeah, so folks, Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer, thank you for the opportunity. And I know it went out to a lot of people. We'll check and make sure it went out to the PPRTA CAC and PPRTA board if possible. But we are actually undertaking, and this is something that I've been planning on for about 2 years, and we have the funding in place now. We received a grant, and this we'll be doing a local road safety plan. So what I mean by local road is those roads, those county roads that are in unincorporated El Paso County. And we are undertaking that plan, and it's a data-driven plan, but we'll also be looking at other opportunities to improve safety, including education, enforcement, and we have an entire committee. One of our highway advisory members is on that committee, Mr. Dave Zelnock, who is going to be joining you there at the HAC as one of the county representatives. But essentially, this is the very beginning where we're getting some public input, and there's a really great interactive map. And so we'll make sure that if you guys haven't had that sent out to you, that gets out to you as well. Essentially a data-driven analysis of all of our roadways to identify where we can do improvements, similar in some cases to what Todd was talking about today, but a little bit different. So what we expect to result of that is an entire study that will be adopted by our Board of County Commissioners. And it will include not only spot improvements, but corridor type improvements that can be done to improve safety. What this will do is it'll help us to prioritize those improvements, but also include education and enforcement, because it's all tied together. to improve safety on the county roads. So we're really excited about this. We started and kicked this project off, and this is funded through federal funds and our local road and bridge funds. And we're really excited about the project and anticipate we'll improve the safety on our county roads. So thank you for the opportunity, Jim.
You're welcome. It's a good thing. I have not opened the link yet, but it's on my list to do. So thank you.
Jim, could I ask Jennifer a question?
Go ahead, Reb.
Was it Victoria that sent the email? Because I got one from her and I had one from CDOT, and I haven't even opened one from CDOT, but it sounds like they're both same basic study that they're doing.
Reb, I know you're on a lot of committees, so you may be getting a duplicate of those emails, but yeah, you should. Victoria Chavez is my lead on that project, our transportation planner for the county. But you may be getting it, because you're in several different committees, you may be getting it from several different places. So we're just trying to get it out as much as possible. We did press release. We're sending it to a bunch of the committees, not only in the county, and not only our highway advisory, but our citizen outreach group, stuff through public health. We're really trying to make sure that we get some good public input on this, just because it's a little bit more difficult with our virtual environment that we're in.
Jennifer, I opened yours first, or Victoria's first. I haven't opened CDOT, so you know how you rank important.
Is it also going to the like the town manager in Green Mountain Falls, things like that? Do they get that notification even though they're incorporated?
I can certainly, we have a whole list of who it's going to, but make sure that it's going to some of the administrative officials at the different jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Because similar to, we have those interfaces, so happy to send those so that, those can be sent out to your town board.
Oh, that'd be great. I think I went ahead and forwarded it, but if it comes from you, it might be better. So thank you.
Sure thing.
Okay, anything else from anybody? I'd like to, before we wrap this up, I would be remiss that Cheryl didn't join us today, but I want to, today would have been her last meeting. I want to publicly thank her for her many years of input and contribution to the committee and the items. She doesn't necessarily have a lot to say, but what she has is thought out and organized and to the point. And so I think her contributions have been great. And so I'd just like to publicly thank her. We'll make the appropriate announcements and notifications to the members of the board during that meeting as well, and get her a certificate of appreciation and that kind of thing. So thank you, Cheryl, for your contribution. If there's not anything else, speak now, forever hold your peace. We'll call the meeting adjourned, and thank you all for your time.
Thank you, everybody. See you next month.
Absolutely.
Someday we'll be live and in person.
We can only hope, right?
Yeah, really.
Everyone be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you all.
Bye.